Some of the very talented and creative people who are performing at the 2025 Faversham Fringe have chosen to talk to me, Wendy, about their appearance at the ninth Fringe, which is now in its third week and running until the 26th of October. On Sunday, the 19th of October at 5:30 in the Alexander Centre, there will be a talk based on the book 42, The Wildly Improbable Ideas of Douglas Adams, written and presented by animator and filmmaker Kevin Jon Davies, who worked with Douglas Adams on The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy and is here today. Hi, Kevin.
Hello, thank you for having me.
Thank you for being here. So, okay, Kevin, what inspired you to write this book?
Well, I'd already done some research into Douglas's archives. I'd known Douglas on and off for 20 years. And when he died rather young at 49, his family eventually didn't know what to do with all his papers. They lodged them with his old university at Cambridge. And I went up there to investigate. And I thought, there's a book in this, never dreaming it'd be me that would eventually put it together. And I got a call out of the blue from a company called Unbound, who have been through a lot of troubles recently, but that's another story. And they suggested that I have a go. The family and the agent pointed them in my direction, and I was very glad to accept the challenge.
Brilliant. Is it actually your first book?
I did work on a book with Douglas back in the mid-90s. There was an illustrated Hitchhiker, which I was the art director of. But yes, this was, I mean, it's interesting. So I've done 30 odd years before. I was an animator at the beginning, and then I did 30 odd years of making archive documentaries. And it's very much like the research phase, which is the part that I enjoy the most. It doesn't matter what the output is, be a documentary or a book, the work is the same. You're looking for the story inherent in the material, and I quite like working with very large archives. So
That
yeah,
really
it was a lovely job, a dream come true.
brilliant. Oh, how lovely. So, in a few words, avoiding spoilers and the obvious, what is the wildly improbably ideas of Douglas Adams all about?
It's like looking into his mind. It's a book, a huge coffee table book, very heavy, and it's presented as a series of images of his actual papers. So it's his terrible typing and his messy handwriting. You get a delve into the mind of Douglas, who was a genius. He wasn't terribly prolific, probably because he put so much effort into every single thing he wrote, and you can see it on the page. He the angst that he pours out with notes to self and things like that when he's berating himself for having forgotten something he should have jotted down last night, or the fact that he thinks that the piece he's writing is absolute garbage. Do you know that, Douglas? He tells himself. And so, yes, it's a sort of glimpse into that phenomenal mind of his.
It's sort of a very personalised autobiography.
There are autobiographies of Douglas. This is something else. This is a treasury of his actual papers. So you get to have a look yourself at what he wrote and the various stages of things. And it goes right from his school days, when he showed an awful lot of promise, even as a 12-year-old, right the way through university, where of course he was at Footlights and is trying to follow in the footsteps of his heroes, Monty Python, and then through his early struggles with writing for BBC Radio, and then eventually Hitchhikers, when he hit a gold mine. He was immensely successful very, very quickly. It seemed as soon as that radio series broke, it led to everything else, the books and
How old
everything.
was he when he started writing Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy?
He's about 26, I think. When,
Right.
but I mean, there
Quite
are
young.
hints in his student notebooks, for instance, of story outlines and things. And there's one that I found in an old notebook from the mid 70s, several years before he'd written Hitchhiker, and he was clearly thinking about it because the outline is there, the bold one paragraph that, if you're a Hitchhiker fan, you recognise it immediately. So yeah, he always wanted to write for Doctor Who as well, and of course he was a script editor for a year and a bit.
So, did he ever have anything to do with Faversham, or is there anything that your Faversham audience is going to go, oh, I recognise that, or take that gem away?
not absolutely at Faversham, but fairly local in Kent. We discovered only recently um, that he did briefly live in Halstead, because there's a letter. His mother had him checked out at the hospital when he was very small. He had a terrible bout of illness and he was actually hospitalized, and he was only like two or something. And I think they only lived there for a short while, but the local GP was in Knockholt. And so I'm going to show a little bit of that, of the the paperwork that we found that covers that. So that's the most local. He lived in a house called Kirawan, which I think was on the old London Road in Halstead. But that was a brief bit of the family moved around quite a bit.
Right.
So yeah, he was born in Cambridge, and of course that's where he went to study as well. But yeah, so and he's sort of most formative years I think were spent in Dorset, in Stolbridge. So yeah, there's a little tiny touch of local story.
Tiny, tiny. So, is your audience going to have to be Hitchhiker Guide fans to enjoy your talk?
Uh, I hope I'm going to keep it plain enough that anybody who's casually interested will get something out of it. The Hitchhiker fans will know quite a bit already, and I know that a few of them. There's at least two or three friends that I know that are coming. So I hope that I'm going to give somebody who's just got a casual interest that they'll get a taste of what he was all about, and maybe it'll whet their appetite. And indeed, I'll be selling books afterwards if anybody wants to buy a copy.
Oh,
But
surely not.
bring a strong bag because they're very heavy.
So tell me, having spent most of your life as a filmmaker and an animator and a director, do you find presenting your own work to a live audience nerve-wracking or exhilarating?
Um, I think I've done it quite a few times now, and I'm getting used to the idea of people will bring some a Doctor Who DVD or something that I've worked on and ask me to sign it. And I always say, "Are you sure you want me to deface this cover? Shall I scribble it on the back or something?" It's very nice to be recognised for it. But no, I don't get terribly nervous. I'm quite proud of what I've done, so I'm very eager to share. I've got that kind of my sister's a journalist. I think maybe there's a little bit of that in me as well. It's just that idea of finding a great story and wanting to share it.
Absolutely. So what's the one thing you hope your audience is going to take away from your talk, apart from one of your books?
Well, I hope they're going to have a few laughs because that's the intention. And when I've given this talk, the various other literary venues and things and all sorts, conventions and whatnot, it usually gets a nice response. There's usually quite a lot of sort of bonhomie about Douglas. People are amused by his brilliant ideas and his funny turns of phrase. I don't pretend to be anything like as clever as him, but I hope to convey something of what he was about, and I hope to, whet the appetite of anybody who wants to know a little bit more.
Brilliant. Kevin, thank you. So, if you've always been a fan of Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, or perhaps other fantasy sci-fi books and programmes, then go on Sunday the 19th of October to the Alexander Centre at 5:30 and experience 42, The Wildly Improbable Ideas of Douglas Adams. Tickets are online at favershamfringe.co.uk, what's-on. And I think Kevin promises to share fresh gems about Douglas Adams and to keep you well entertained. Thanks, Kevin, for talking to Radio Faversham and the people of Faversham today.
Thanks for having me.
Pleasure.